Hey guys, this is Gene Jensen, and today I'm going to teach you a very basic, very important thing about bass fishing, and it's how to put a hook in a soft plastic snagless. All right, so we are going to talk about three basic worm hooks, the ones that I use the most, the ones that pretty much most people use the most. And we're going to start off and we're going to talk about the offset worm hook. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. The offset worm hook. The extra wide gap worm hook still has that little offset in it, but just got a wider gap. And a straight shank worm hook, flipping hook, grass hook, people call it a whole bunch of different things, but a straight shank worm hook. All right, so one thing to understand is that any soft plastic, and I mean any soft plastic that you have, can be rigged this way, and is usually rigged this way. So even if it's a straight worm or a creature bait or a Senko or anything else, it can be rigged using this method, okay? And I'm using three different hooks because there's three different ways to hook the worm in order to keep the worm or the soft plastic perfectly straight. And that's your end goal, is you want it to come off of the hook, you want to be on the hook perfectly straight. Any twists and stuff like that mess up the action of the worm, unless you're doing it on purpose, like a wacky rig or something like that. But we're not talking about a wacky rig. All right, so start off with the offset worm hook, standard offset worm hook. And I want to, when I'm done, I want the eye of the hook buried in the worm. And this is kind of a big, thick, wired hook for this little bitty worm. But it's the only bright worm I had. So you start off, and when I start off at the beginning, when I'm teaching beginners, I always teach them to lay the hook along the side of the worm and see what it's going to look like when that worm is perfectly straight. See where it goes in, see where it comes out, so on and so forth. Kind of get an idea. And then follow those angles. First angle is kind of a little slanted, coming off the tip of the worm. And I'm gonna go really fairly deep to try to remember to bury that eye. And I don't always bury the eye. I bury the eye when I'm fishing grass and heavy cover. But sometimes I don't. If I'm fishing at night, I don't bury the eye, so the sinker on this Texas rig will click up against it and be a little bit more of an attractant. But anyway, so you slide up, and as you get to this bend, okay, I want you to see the angle that I put it in at. When you get to the bend in the hook, whether it be a grip pin hook like this or not, as you're pulling it through the worm, you rotate, okay? I'm gonna do that one more time. As you pull it through the worm, you rotate as it's coming through the bend, and it flows pretty natural, okay? Of course, assume that you already have the line tied onto the end of the hook. I'm not gonna worry about that right now, okay? It's just like that. Now, you see how that worm hangs perfectly straight. You see how that hook goes into the edge, into that worm. Okay, so what I do is I grab right there where that hook's going to go in, because I'm going to bend this worm up and I might lose that spot. And then as I'm putting it through that worm, I just kind of pull the hook down, or pull the worm down, just like that. See how almost perfectly straight that is? And you see how that hook tip is just barely in that worm, okay? And that is a regular offset, and that's how you put it into a worm. All right, so the next one is an extra wide gap. Gamakatsu hooks made the extra wide gap really popular. Matter of fact, I think they invented it. And this is a grip pin by Mustad, and same sort of deal. It's got a real wide gap. It's made for thick soft plastics like tubes and just wider, thicker creature baits and things like that. Gives you plenty of room to be able to get the hook set into that worm. And it's a little different. See what happens when I lay it along the side? See how the bend in that hook, or the eye of the hook and everything, goes straight down into the worm, and it's the last one went down at an angle. Okay. And that's kind of what you want to do. You want to go straight down, and I go straight down till I reach that bend, and I pull that hook out of that worm, pull down, same sort of thing. As I'm pulling it through, I'm rotating the hook, just like that. Now this one's a little different. You want that hook to be on the other opposite side, or you want it to come out on the opposite side of the worm. You don't want to bury it in that worm. So what you do is you figure out exactly where it's going to go across. Once again, I grab right there, to mark it with my finger, and I go straight across. Let me see if I can show you that. I go straight across and I come out the other side. Okay, now it's not weedless. Of course it's not. That's going to get hung. So the next thing you do is called text posing or skinning a worm. Is you just take your worm and you squish it up. You stick that tip right in there just like that. That's a little much, but just to where that tip is just barely in there. When the fish bites, that pops out and you set that hook. So that's an extra wide gap hook. And how to put it in a worm. All right, so the next one is the straight shank hook. And this tends to be the one I use the most when I'm flipping heavy cover or of course punching grass. This is a punching hook. Nice heavy wire worm hook, and they get even heavier than this. I've got some really heavy ones in the box. But if you notice as you lay it alongside that worm, you've got some serious angles going in, and you got on both sides, and you're going to want to bury that tip just like you would a regular offset, okay? And this is a grip pin. It needs to be bent out a little bit. Now what you do is stick it in the tip of the worm, and like when you laid it down, you want to do it at an angle. You want to come out at an angle, just like that, and then pull it all the way through, especially with these grip pins, pull all the way through till that grip pin comes out, and then rotate it. Okay, and then you see how that hook lays along the side. Same thing, mark the side, stick the tip in, and pull up just like that. Okay, and you're punching, you're flipping heavy cover, so you don't want that hook, that tip to be exposed. But look, it snags me just as soon as I slide this down there. So the fish bites, set the hook straight up over your head, and you catch a fish. So that is how you rig a soft plastic, any soft plastic, weedless, or like everybody else says, Texas style. So be sure to check out my other beginner videos. I'll put the link right up here and down in the description. But like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing, introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water, go out and catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.